Hi guys, so last week we've discussed orientation and onboarding. Today, we will proceed in the training of employees. Directly after orientation, training should begin. So as an overview, having high potential employees doesn't guarantee they'll succeed. They must know what to do and how to do it. If they don't, they will improvise or do nothing useful at all. So training means giving new or current employees the skills that they need to perform their jobs. Moreover, employers should confirm the applicant or employee's claims of skills and experience, and also provide adequate training, particularly where employees use dangerous equipment, no? And evaluate the training to ensure that it is actually reducing risks. Because inadequate training can also trigger negligent training liability. As one expert puts it this way, it's clearly from the case law that where an employer fails to train adequately and an employee subsequently does harm to third parties, the court will find the employer liable. In short, the employer must do their part or they do their jobs in training their employees. So today, our learning objectives are the following. First, we must define what is training, and then understand the need to conduct training needs assessment, and also identify methods of conducting training needs assessment, then learn the process of identifying training needs, then know the related learning theories, and determine the different training methods, and lastly, evaluate a training program. So, what is a training nga ba? So, let's define the training first. In the business world, training is regarded as an attempt to improve the employee's ability to perform his jobs so the goals of the organization can be achieved. This means one will be imparting the knowledge, not just knowledge but skills, aptitudes, which are necessary to undertake the required job efficiently. This is with a view to developing the worker to his or her fullest potential. So, what are the importance of training? Why are we pursuing training? First, of course, the gap that exists between what is expected of the employee and what skills and attitudes he currently possesses may be addressed through proper training. Ayan. And, of course, a person who is not properly trained to do his job will be a burden to his unit. And lastly, of course, it will help to minimize recruitment and hiring costs, as the employee concerned is already in place and is familiar with the company and his job. So, training can reduce or not eliminate the gap, no, by equipping the participants with the knowledge and skills, or by encouraging them to build and enhance their capabilities. So the gap between the present status or the actual performance or behavior and the desired status or the required performance or the desired behavior may indicate problems, no, that in turn can be translated into a training need. So these problems is translated into training needs. So this shall serve as the baseline data. So to determine this baseline data, one may conduct training needs assessment. So that's where training needs assessment comes in. So by definition, training needs assessment is the method of determining if a training need exists, and if it does, what training is required to fill the gap. So, it is a shortage, no, of skills or abilities which should be reduced or eliminated by means of training and development. And training needs hinder employees in the fulfillment of their jobs, responsibilities, or prevent an organization from achieving its objective. Because training is a means to ensure that these employees have the knowledge and the right skills to be able to do their job or their work effectively and competently. So training may be needed when there is a gap between the desired performance and the current performance. And the reason for the gap is the lack of skill or knowledge. Training may only be able to resolve part of the problem. Thus, we need to analyze the problem and find out whether the training will be able to resolve it. If training is necessary, we also need to define the objective of the training, no? And how will it help the staffs or the staff member become more effective. So this process is called training needs assessment, shown above. So, or training needs analysis. So how could you assess training needs? First, you can consult key stakeholders, then look at records and reports. You can also read job description. You can conduct surveys. You can also do it through observation and, of course, through interviews. So what are the methods in identifying training needs? These are the known methods, no? So let me present it to you. These various ways are as follows. First is performance reviews or appraisal. So we will be defining each. Development centers, human resource audit, interviews, questionnaires, observation, then review of organization or business plans, then desk research, group discussion, and job analysis and evaluation. So let's discuss this thoroughly. First, let's start with performance review or appraisal. So performance review is the study of a worker's performance to determine how it can be improved. And the performance appraisal is the assessment of the quality of a person's work in a job. So usually or oftentimes, performance review is also referred to as performance appraisal. So to define it, ang performance review is whether the employees are able to achieve their quotas or the minimum required performance. And the performance appraisal, this is where employees' skills are reviewed, their achievements, and the growth or the lack thereof are evaluated. So companies use performance appraisals to give employees the big picture feedback on their work and also to justify pay increases and bonuses as well as the termination decisions. They can also be conducted at any given time, but they tend to be annually or semi-annual or sometimes quarterly. But also, we can also identify employees' training needs through performance review or performance appraisal. Next class is the development centers. Development centers are referred to as the assessment centers. They use a variety of assessment techniques to ensure the coverage of skills and attributes in the widest possible manner. So these centers deals with the training and development of the employees in the organization after a person is first hired, of course. So this is to provide opportunities to learn new skills and distribute resources that are beneficial for the employee's tasks and other development activities. So these centers, of course, they are essential for any organization that would like to be dynamic, no, and growth-oriented. They are the ones who will assess the training needs of the employees based on the job requirements. So these training centers or the assessment centers. Next is class the human resource audit. Ang human resource audit, it is a simple approach to identifying training needs by comparing the current inventory of personnel with the quantity and quality of employees that will be needed in the future. So this is usually from 1 to 5 years. So ang human resource audit, it is actually a comprehensive or a completely covering or a broad method of objective and systematic verification of current practices, pwede pong documentation, policies, and procedures which are prevalent sa ato ang HR system in the organization. So ang effective HR audit daw, it will help you identify the needs for improvement and enhancement sa HR function. So they closely examine the number of personnel, no, along with their minimum qualities that will be needed in their in the near 1 to 5 years. So this would be, or this could be in terms of skills or license or education or work experience. So they will audit, no, your human resource. This also involves identifying issues and finding solutions to problems before they become unmanageable. That is for our human resource audit. So another is interviews. Through interviews, you can get the learning needs of the employees through interviews. That is the advantage of this, rather, is that employees will have the opportunity to present their own unique training needs. Yan. So they will be able to express themselves, no? Sa questionnaires po, the use of this is an economical way of identifying training needs. So relevant personnel could be able to write their comments on certain questions relating to training and performance. So through questionnaires, respondents could organize first their thoughts before putting it in paper or before jotting it all down. So they could be able to express and present their needs precisely, no? As they are able to think their answers thoroughly. That's for the questionnaires, the advantage of using questionnaires. Next class, training needs can be assessed or can be the training needs can be assessed through observation. Observation is one of the earliest means of determining training needs. So this method may be done formally or informally. So a manager may observe the operation process and then observe the needs as he or she closely analyze the bottleneck of the operations or unsa ba jud ang problema sa operations. So the manager can assess, no, the operations in his own ideas. Next is the review of organization or the business plans. So this is probably can be found sa records ng organization ang ilahang business plan. So organization or business plans are good sources of information useful in determining training needs. So a business firm on the expansion mode, for instance, will require recruitment of persons to fill entry-level positions as well as managerial jobs. So these positions can be found in the business plan, of course. Next is the desk research. So ang desk research it involves a review and analysis of internal and external factors that may affect the performance of employees. So ang desk research, another term siya for secondary research, no? Broadly speaking, manggod, there are two types of research or research activity. Ang primary research ug ang secondary research. Ang primary research, it is where you go out and discover stuff yourself. Ang secondary research, this is where you find what other people have done. So, nanakay references. So, ang desk research is not about only collecting data lang. Instead, your role as a researcher, you're carrying out a desk research is to review, no, previous findings to gain, of course, understanding of the field or of that may affect the performance of the employees. So that is another way of gathering information on the learning needs or the training needs of your employees. Next is the group discussion. Ang group discussion, it is under this scheme, individuals who are directly concerned with some performance difficulties meet in a group coordinated by a person who may have previous training as a facilitator. So they may gather in a group to discuss the gaps, no, the difficulties, and the necessary trainings to patch these gaps. So lastly is the job analysis and evaluation. Ang job analysis and evaluation, these two, when undertaken, lead to job preparation of the job description and job specification. So, ang job evaluation are often confused with job analysis, but the two activities are different, so they differ drastically. Ang job analysis, this is done to develop job description and job specification. While ang job evaluation, it is a systematic way, no, of determining the value or worth of a job in relation to other jobs in the organization. So, si job evaluation, it is the process of determining the importance, no, of a particular job. So, in relation to the other jobs sa organization. To maintain objectively, employers sometimes hire consultants to complete this step in the compensation planning and the design process. So, let's take a look on the process of determining the training needs. So, this is the process of determining the training needs. It all starts with, in determining the training needs, we first must identify the goals of the organization. In identifying the organizational goal, VMGO, or the vision, mission, goals, and objectives of the organizations are referred to. No? Next is, we identify behaviors necessary for each employee to complete each task or the assigned tasks. Ayan. So, after identifying the issues to deal with, one must identify the behaviors na necessary to complete the objectives and the tasks assigned. Then, one must identify tasks that must be completed to achieve these goals and the objectives of the organization. So, what are the tasks and objectives? Example, no? In a fast food chain, one of the tasks is to smile and greet the customer. No? That could be one of their steps. So you will identify these tasks or these steps, and then you can write it down for documentation. Next is identify deficiencies between current employee behavior and necessary behavior to complete the assigned tasks. Were the employees able to smile and greet the customers? No? So, finally, in this step, we identify the deficiencies na between the current employee behavior and the necessary behavior to complete the assigned tasks through data collection or performance gap analysis by comparing the targets and the actual performance. So, we identify the challenges and problems that hinders the organization from achieving the goals and objectives. So this is when we conduct the performance gap analysis, so ang performance gap analysis, we subtract, no, the actual performance from the target performance, or we conduct different assessment methods, such as the following. So there are 3 assessment methods for identifying key training needs at any organization. First is the industry-related needs. So, ang industry-related needs, this is the industry where the organization fits into to develop strategies that may be appropriate. So, there surely exist certain pieces, no, of industry knowledge that employees should have. So, these needs or this knowledge is essentially will derive the employer to the knowledge on how the organization will fit sa industry or to cope up sa industry or to gain market share. So, example, when you are venturing into restaurants, you may closely assess the industry performance along the fast food industry trends. Ayan. So, that is for the industry-related needs. For the job-related needs are those that relate directly to jobs which are part of the organization. So, does job requires a person skilled in marketing? So, thus, they may employ marketing training, no, as a refresher course. Another is the task-related needs. Task-related needs usually comes in the form of a requirement in a particular part or output within a job or a family. If the job requires creation of publications, no? So they may employ digital trainings or success story writing, no? Or journalizing and many more. So these needs may be, or this training may be related to the specific task a person is required to deliver, no? Sa iyahang trabaho. So let's proceed to the learning theories. In training and development, Manggod, it is our duty to provide a conducive learning environment. And of course, understand the frameworks that help us know how this information is used and how knowledge is created, and of course, how learning takes place. So, learning designers can apply these frameworks according to their learning and learner needs. And to make more informed decisions and choosing the right instructional practice. Unsa may instructional practice ang more appropriate. So first class is the social learning. This is also known as observational learning and modeling, which refers to the learning of new behavior by watching and imitating the behavior of others in a social situation. So, si social learning, it can be achieved in 3 ways. The first is by observing what happens to other people. You observe other people. You observe their actions. Next is by being told about something. So, tinuruan ka. No? You are told about something. You are taught. And of course, through direct experience. So, you are the one who directly experienced the situation. That's why you learn. So, sabi nga nila, experience is the best teacher. Next is the reinforcement theory. The reinforcement theory is proposed by Burrus Frederick Skinner and his associates. So, B.F. Skinner or Burrus Frederick Skinner is also known as B.F. Skinner. So, this theory states that individual's behavior is a function of its consequences based on the principle of law of effect of Edward Thorndike in 1898. So, gibase ni Burrus Frederick Skinner or B.F. Skinner ang iyahang theory sa law of effect ni Edward Thorndike. So, ang reinforcement theory, it states that an individual's behavior is a function or a product sa consequences, no, of its behavior. So, unsa man ni siya ang law of effect? Ang law of effect ni Thorndike, it states that behavior that is followed by pleasant consequences is likely to be repeated. And behavior followed by unpleasant consequences, of course, is likely to be repeated also. No? So let's take a closer look on this explanation. First, observe the operant conditioning chamber. So, ang operant conditioning chamber ni B.F. Skinner na ay ilaga nga gibutang sub-chamber, no? So, kana nga ilaga, whenever i-pull sa ilaga kini nga lever, na siya yung reward nga makuha. So, na ay dispenser, mugawas ang pellet. So, naapoy, if ever siya nga i-press or duulon, mulibot sa siya, na ay electric shock, no? So, tudluan, tan-aon, or gi-observe ang ilaga if makatunan ba niya ang actions of pulling the lever or iya bang utruhon ang iyang action nga na ay negative consequence, which is na-shock siya, no? Kay na electric grid if mutuyok pa siya dito. So, that is the operant conditioning chamber. So, what is operant conditioning nga ba? Ang operant conditioning is a type of conditioning in which the desired behavior leads to a reward or prevents a punishment. So, there is a certain behavior utruhon nimo siya, no? If there is a reward. Or utruhon nimo ang specific behavior if naay punishment. Like example, like certain behavior, dili na ka magpalit para why punishment. No? So, dili na ka permi magpalit. Utruhon nimo ang behavior nga dili ka permi magpalit. Magpalit sa classes, no? So, there are 3 responses. This is according to Skinner. The first response is the neutral operants. Ang neutral operants are responses from the environment that neither increases nor decreases the probability of a behavior being repeated. So, despite the consequences, one response is that it will not be repeated. The probability that the behavior is not repeated. It will neither increase or decrease the probability, no, of being repeated. And another response is the reinforcers. Responses, this is the responses from the environment that increases the probability of a behavior being repeated. Reinforcers can be either positive or negative. So, sa reinforcers naman, ang environment, mutaas ang probability nga utrohon, no? Just like what happens sa ilagat, ni taas ang probability nga moto siya push sa level. So, gitudluan siya unsaon pag-push sa level. Or katong lever. Lever. So, that is for the reinforcers. Next is the punishers. These are responses from the environment that decreases the likelihood of a behavior being repeated. Punishment weakens the behavior. That is for the punishers. So, let us take a closer look. So, let's explain thoroughly the 3 responses of Skinner. So, walang neutral response diri because it doesn't add or subtract the probability or the likelihood of the occurrence of a certain behavior. So, we are taking a closer look sa reinforcement and punishment. So, for the positive reinforcement, this is a term used by Skinner sa operant conditioning through which ang response or behavior is strengthened or there is an increase in the likelihood of occurrence of a certain behavior. Meaning, ma-increase ang behavior leading to the repetition, no, of a desired behavior through which ang reward is ang reinforcing stimulus or something that we add to the environment. Like, we will add a reward if you do something. So, you will repeat the behavior. Next is the negative reinforcement. Ang negative reinforcement naman, this is the termination of unpleasant state. So, you will remove something from the environment. Or you will remove an adverse stimulus from the environment, which is the state is rewarding to a person. So, it will strengthen the behavior. Example, sa ilaga nga gihimo ni Skinner na ay electric current. So, nakakat-on ang ilaga how to not knock itself dun sa current or doon sa kuryente. So, same sa tao, to avoid negative reinforcement such as fines during absences sa school, one will attend their meetings regularly. So, in short, it will increase the behavior. So, ang negative reinforcement is by using consequences para dili ma-increase ang behavior, which is always to attend meetings. Sa punishment naman, this is defined as opposite of the reinforcement since it is designed to eliminate or weaken a certain behavior, no, or decrease a behavior. So, it is done by either directly applying unpleasant stimulus or by removing a reward from the environment. Example, gahig ulo imo anak. Sige, grounded ka as punishment. So, para sa sunod, dili na otruhon. Or that is a positive punishment. Negative punishment, sige, ibanan nako ang imong pocket money. Para sunod, di na sab otruhon or there will be a decrease in the behavior. So, that is for the negative. Kaya nag-iban ka sa environment. So, to closely define or explain these behaviors, let's take a closer look ani nga graph. So, ang behavior of employee, ang desired behavior, it can be added by something. So, through previous behavior is repeated, maning expected. Ang component ni mo ani is positive reinforcement. So, it's giving something pleasant after a behavior. Ang unwanted behavior naman pod, add something negative sa imuhang environment. So, ang previous behavior is not repeated. So, this is negative reinforcement. Kaya wa nagiutro. So, this is the removal of a negative condition to strengthen a behavior. No? Ang bad behavior pod, add something negative like demotion in a rank. So, previous behavior is not repeated. This is as punishment. Another sa punishment ng bad behavior para previous behavior will not be repeated. You will take away something positive like cancellation of proposed salary, no? Salary increase. So, that's for the summary of the reinforcement theory. So, let's proceed to the training methods. What are the training methods? After we are able to determine how employees will learn these needs from the TNA or the training needs assessment, let us now determine the possible or the appropriate training methods. First class is the on-the-job training or apprenticeship. So, what is this? It is a method that places the trainee in the actual work situation where he is shown how to perform the job and is allowed to do it, but under the supervision of the trainer. Trainees are subjected to a comprehensive exposure to the practical and theoretical aspects of their chosen job. So, sa on-the-job trainings, naa ka sa organization. You are attending, no? Or you are physically on the job. If there is on-the-job training, of course, there is, unsa man, off-the-job training. So, ang off-the-job training naman is a training made outside of the actual workplace or the actual company or outside the company. So, sa off-the-job training, you are doing it outside the company. So, naapod tayo classroom instruction. Ang classroom instruction pod, a trainer is assigned to provide lectures to a group of trainees in a classroom. Next is we can also train through demonstration, films and videos. So, films and videos, there are various audio visuals means that can be used for training like films, video cassettes, and slides with pre-recorded contents of various topics which have common training tools. So for films and videos, there are companies that uses films and videos. So they created videos which contains the history, their vision and mission, through which they play sa ilahang training. Sa ilahang actual training. So, next is demonstration. Ang demonstration naman, under this method, the trainees are allowed to observe an actual activity performed by the trainer. So, sa training demonstration, example, sa vocation school, no? Magda sila dito og kanang makina. No, kintahay nang-apply ka sa TASDA sa ilang automotive. So magda sila dito og ilang actual nga makina for demonstration. Next is case studies. Case studies is a method which makes uses of cases which the trainer requires the trainees to read and analyze. So naay reading materials and then you have to answer these studies. You have to analyze these case studies. Next is simulation. Ang simulation naman is a duplicate of the actual work situation where the trainee is allowed to see the result of his decisions. Usually simulations, naririnig ko sa games, no? Sa mga, sa Google Play na nakabutang simulations. So, ilaha pang gi-observe. Another example sa simulation, sa mga pilots, no, na ay actual nga, like, isa ka tube, and then isod ning usa ka pilot, ato, and then naikusog nga hangin sa ubos. So mura siyang maglupad sa capsule, and then mag-testing siya og balance. So that is for the simulation. Napo day role-playing, no? Ang role-playing naman, in this training method, the trainee is required to assume a role and to act out of the scenario presented. Example, kapag ang mga pulis mag-role-play sila, no, sa mga nahitabo nga crime. So this will help them analyze the situation. Napoy sa mga doctors or sa mga midwife, no? Mag-role-play sila just like na ay ianak, dahil magpapaanak sila, no? So, naa sila mannequin, then ilang i-role play. So, lastly, class, let me present to you the evaluating of training methods. After we are able to conduct training, to enable control, no, and monitoring, and of course, to assure the effectivity of these trainings, we must conduct training evaluation. First, let us define unsa ba ni siyang training evaluation and what can we benefit from it. Ang training evaluation daw is the process of examining a training program. And it checks whether the training had the desired effect, and it ensures whether candidates are able to implement their learning in their respective workplaces or routines. Ayan. So, we can expect different outcomes from these trainings. So, let us take a look on the different outcomes. First is the cognitive outcome. Ang cognitive outcome, these are used to determine the degree of familiarity sa trainees with the principles, facts, techniques, procedures, and of course, processes that were discussed in the training program. Another outcome is that trainees may develop skills. So, skill-based outcome are used to assess the level of technical or motor skills and behavior of the trainees. So, example, driving. After you attend driving classes, one may be able to develop the skill. So, probably, dili lang ni siya kausa ka class. So, series of classes. Like whenever there is something mo-block sa imuhang way, o driver ka, nag-drive ka sa start, you have to think it through whether you will press the brakes, you will press the gas. So, pag na-develop na nimo ang skill, you'll, even without thinking that you'll have to pull on the brakes, your feet will automatically press the brakes, even without thinking it, no? So, that will become a skill. Another example is when I formally work in a company that supplies or manufactures stator parts, kana bang dynamo sa sakyanan, one of my tasks is to twist its ends. Ang mga tumoy, ako na siyang pag-unite through twisting it perfectly. So, at first, I was not able to twist it properly until I was able to develop the skill of doing so. So, na siya purma nga nindot. So, you are required to develop a skill-based outcome. So, another outcome that could be developed in training programs is the affective outcomes. Ang affective outcomes, these are used to measure attitudes and motivation of trainees. Usually, mo ni siya ang teamwork, no? Ang punctuality mo ba, ang imong absences, ilang i-analyze, if your attitudes towards your work nag-improve. Another outcome is the result outcome. So, of course, these are used to determine the benefits afforded by the training program to the company. Mao na jud ni ang output, no, nga gi-require sa company nga dapat na imong ma-achieve sa imuhang training programs. So, that is all for today. If you have any questions, feel free to message me or message your instructor. So, thank you so much for listening. Have a nice day.